Hello there, and welcome to the Philosophia. Tonight we will be exploring one of the mind's most mysterious experiences. It is a feeling that can stop us suddenly, make us question what is real, and then disappear before we can truly understand it. This is called déjà vu. It is that strange sensation of feeling like you have already lived this exact moment before, as if you somehow know what will happen next, even though you should not. It feels like a quiet signal coming from deep inside your consciousness, almost like a small error that feels magical. If you enjoy these calm and thoughtful explorations, you can like and subscribe or share a simple thought in the comments. It helps others discover this peaceful space too, one quiet soul at a time. But for now, just relax, settle yourself, and allow the gentle mystery of déjà vu to slowly guide you into sleep. Let us begin. Nearly everyone has experienced déjà vu at least once in their life. You might be standing in the middle of a conversation, walking through a doorway, or sitting somewhere new, and suddenly everything feels strangely familiar. The light, the sounds, the words being spoken, all of it seems like it has already happened in exactly the same way before. Studies suggest that between 60 and 80% of people have felt this at some point. It is something that crosses cultures, languages, and continents. A merchant in Morocco, a teacher in Tokyo, or a farmer in Iowa, all of them may have paused in the middle of a moment, struck by this strange feeling that time has somehow folded back on itself. Déjà vu does not choose who it visits. It comes to the young and the old, to those who think scientifically and those who think spiritually. It is like a shared thread woven through human awareness, connecting us all through this quiet sense of confusion. The term déjà vu comes from the French language and means already seen. Even though the experience itself has likely existed for as long as humans have had memories, the phrase is quite modern. A French philosopher named Émile Bourac introduced the term in the year 1876, giving a name to something people had always felt but struggled to explain. Before this, different cultures described it in other ways, such as echoes of past lives, glimpses into the future, or tricks played by spirits or gods. The phrase déjà vu captured the meaning in a simple and elegant way. It does not mean remembered or recognized. Instead, it feels like something has been seen before, almost like looking into a reflection of another reflection. This French phrase spread across the world and became the common name for this shared mystery. Sometimes a borrowed word is the only one that truly fits something so complex. Déjà vu is not the only kind of strange familiarity that people experience. There are similar experiences that feel slightly different. One example is déjà entendu, which means already heard. This is when a sound or a conversation feels strangely familiar. Another is déjà vécu, which means already lived. This feeling is deeper, where not just the sight, but the entire experience, including emotions, feels like it has already happened before. Then there is the opposite experience, called jamais vu. This is when something that should feel familiar suddenly feels completely strange. A word you have written many times might suddenly look unfamiliar, or a place you visit every day might feel new and unknown. These experiences show that our sense of familiarity is not fixed. It is something the brain is constantly building and adjusting. Each of these moments reveals how delicate our connection to reality really is. Some people experience déjà vu more often than others. For most people, it only happens occasionally, maybe a few times a year. But for others, it can happen much more often, sometimes even several times in a single week. Younger people, especially those in their teenage years or their 20s, report experiencing it more frequently than older adults. People who travel a lot or have very active and creative minds also seem more likely to notice it. Stress, tiredness, and certain medications can also increase how often it happens. Even with these patterns, there is no perfect way to predict it. Some people may go many years without feeling it at all, while others experience it so often that it almost becomes normal, although it never feels completely ordinary. The frequency changes from person to person, much like dreams, shaped by the hidden patterns of each individual mind. Déjà vu begins somewhere deep inside the brain, especially in areas linked to memory. Scientists often point to a part of the brain called the hippocampus and nearby regions. These structures are located beneath the outer layer of the brain and are responsible for forming new memories and recalling old ones. When these systems are working properly, we can easily tell whether something is new or familiar. But during déjà vu, something changes. The brain's recognition system may briefly become out of sync, creating a false feeling of familiarity. It is also possible that one side of the brain processes information slightly faster than the other, creating a small delay. The exact cause is still debated, but most scientists agree on one thing. Déjà vu is not a mystical doorway to another world. It is a small glitch, a short misfire in the brain's complex system. Another important part of the brain involved in this experience is the temporal lobe, located on the sides of the brain. This area helps process what we see and hear, and also helps form memories. People with a condition called temporal lobe epilepsy often report very strong and long-lasting episodes of déjà vu during seizures. For them, the feeling can last for minutes instead of seconds, and may come with unusual emotions or changes in how reality feels. By studying these cases, researchers have learned more about how déjà vu works. When the temporal lobe becomes overactive or misfires, it can flood the mind with a false sense of familiarity. This suggests that in healthy people, brief moments of déjà vu may come from small and harmless changes in this same region, like a quick spark where there should normally be calm. Memory itself is not just one simple system. It is made up of different parts. There's explicit memory, which is the conscious recall of facts and events. And there is implicit memory, which includes unconscious skills like riding a bicycle or recognizing a face. Déjà vu may happen when these systems overlap or mix together. For example, you might come across a situation that unconsciously reminds you of something from your past. Your implicit memory recognizes the similarity, but your conscious memory cannot find the source. This creates a strange feeling where you feel like you know something, but you cannot explain why. This suggests that déjà vu is not really about reliving the past, but about the brain's pattern recognition making a small mistake. It reminds us that memory is not like a recording. It is something the brain actively builds, and it can sometimes be imperfect and flexible. One theory explains déjà vu as a split in perception. Imagine your brain processing the same moment twice, almost at the same time, but with a tiny delay. The first signal passes through one path, and the second passes through another. Because of the slight delay, the second signal feels like a memory of the first one. So you are actually experiencing the present, but your brain mistakenly labels it as something from the past. This idea helps explain why déjà vu feels so brief and why we can never clearly identify what we think we are remembering. There is nothing real to remember, only a small timing error, like an echo in the brain that disappears as quickly as it appears. Another explanation focuses on the brain's system for detecting familiarity. Our minds are constantly deciding whether something is new or something we have already experienced. Most of the time, this system works perfectly, but sometimes it may send the wrong signal, marking a new experience as familiar without any real memory behind it. It is similar to a fire alarm going off even when there is no fire. The signal itself is real, but the reason behind it is not. Studies show that déjà vu happens more often when people are tired or stressed.
times when the brain is more likely to make small errors. The feeling itself is real, but the interpretation is mistaken. We are not actually remembering something. Instead, we are incorrectly labeling the present moment as something from the past. Some researchers also believe that déjà vu may be connected to the way we store and recall memories.
When we experience something, the brain does not store it as one simple file. Instead, it stores it as a network of connections, including sights, sounds, emotions, and the situation around it, all linked together. Later, when we come across just one part of that network, it can bring back the feeling of the whole experience. Déjà vu may happen when a current moment activates an old memory network without actually bringing the memory into our awareness. You feel the connection, but you cannot see where it comes from. It is similar to hearing a song and suddenly feeling emotional or nostalgic without knowing the reason. The connection is there, but the details stay hidden. This idea suggests that déjà vu may not be a mistake in the brain, but rather a natural result of how deeply connected our memories really are. Attention and distraction also play an important role in this experience. Déjà vu often happens when our attention is divided. You might be walking through a new city only partly listening to a friend, while also looking at shops and surroundings. Then suddenly, everything feels strangely familiar. Some researchers believe that this happens because your brain may have already processed part of the scene without you noticing it.
A moment later, when you become fully aware of it, that earlier unconscious processing creates a faint sense of recognition. You are not remembering something from the distant past. Instead, you are recalling something from just a moment ago, something you did not consciously notice. This idea suggests that déjà vu is more likely when we are distracted or tired, when the gap between unconscious and conscious thinking becomes wider. The brain's ability to predict what will happen next is also part of this mystery. Our minds are constantly making predictions based on patterns we have learned from past experiences. For example, when you walk into a room, your brain already expects certain things, like the layout, the furniture, or the lighting. If what you see matches your expectations very closely, it can create a strong sense of familiarity. This may explain why déjà vu often happens in ordinary situations rather than unusual ones. Everyday moments are full of patterns that the brain can easily predict. When what we expect and what we actually see match too closely, it can feel like a memory. In reality, it is a false signal where the brain mistakes its own prediction for something it has already experienced.
Another idea is known as the hologram theory. This theory suggests that memories might be stored across the brain in a distributed way, rather than in one specific place. In a hologram, each small part contains information about the whole image, even if it is less detailed. If memory works in a similar way, then even a small part of an experience could create the feeling of the entire memory without actually bringing it back fully. In this case, déjà vu would be the feeling of accessing just a fragment, sensing the whole experience without clearly seeing it. This idea is more theoretical and not strongly proven by science, but it captures something meaningful about the experience. It reflects the feeling that something complete and significant is just beyond our reach, present but not fully visible. Throughout history, different cultures have explained déjà vu in spiritual or mystical ways. In some traditions, it is seen as proof of reincarnation, where memories from a past life briefly appear in the present. The idea is that you have been in this moment before, not in your current life, but in another one. Ancient Greek and Roman thinkers sometimes described these moments as glimpses into the ongoing journey of the soul.
In Hinduism and Buddhism, the concept of samsara, which is the cycle of rebirth, offers another explanation. Déjà vu could be understood as a memory carried over from a previous existence, where the soul recognizes something familiar. These ideas are not scientific, but they reflect a deep human desire to believe that consciousness continues beyond a single lifetime and that our experiences are part of a larger story. Other cultures have viewed déjà vu as something prophetic, a sign connected to the future or to hidden awareness. In parts of West Africa, it may be seen as a message from ancestors or spirits. In Celtic traditions, it could represent a moment where the natural world and the supernatural world briefly touch, a place where reality feels thin. These interpretations show a way of thinking where time is not strictly divided into past, present, and future. Instead, these boundaries are flexible. Déjà vu becomes like a small opening in time where something beyond normal perception briefly appears. Even though modern science explains it differently, these cultural ideas remind us that people have always tried to find meaning in mysterious experiences.
In literature and philosophy, déjà vu has also been an important theme. Writers such as Marcel Proust explored the idea of involuntary memory, where a simple taste or smell can suddenly bring back a powerful sense of the past. His famous Madeline scene in Search of Lost Time reflects a feeling similar to déjà vu, where time seems to collapse into a single moment. Philosophers have long debated whether such experiences reveal something important about consciousness, or if they are simply small errors in thinking. Existentialist thinkers wondered if déjà vu shows that memory and identity are less stable than we believe. If we can feel like we have lived a moment before without any real evidence, it raises questions about how reliable our sense of self truly is. These questions do not have clear answers, but they make the mystery deeper. Déjà vu becomes more than just a curious feeling. It turns into a philosophical question about the nature of reality and consciousness. Studying déjà vu scientifically is very difficult. It happens suddenly, lasts only a short time, and is different for each person. It cannot easily be created in a laboratory, and by the time someone reports it, the feeling has already passed. Because of this, researchers often rely on surveys where people describe their experiences afterward. Some scientists study individuals who experience frequent déjà vu, such as those with temporal lobe epilepsy, to better understand what might be happening in the brain. Brain imaging studies have shown that certain areas of the brain behave differently during these episodes. However, because the experience is so brief, capturing it exactly as it happens remains a challenge. Researchers are left gathering clues from indirect evidence, trying to piece together a complete understanding of something that is naturally difficult to observe. Some experiments have used virtual reality to create situations that feel similar to déjà vu. Participants are first shown a scene, and later shown a similar but slightly different one. This can sometimes create a sense of false familiarity. These studies suggest that the structure of a place and environmental details play an important role. When a new place shares similarities with one we have seen before, the chances of experiencing déjà vu increase. Even though these experiments are not perfect and do not fully recreate the real experience, they still provide useful insights. They show that the brain's pattern recognition system is deeply involved, and that feelings of familiarity can be influenced by small details in our surroundings. Scientists have also studied déjà vu in relation to how memories are formed and stabilized. Memories are not fixed immediately after they happen. Instead, they go through a process of strengthening over time, especially during sleep. If something interrupts this process, it may lead to partial memories that are not fully stored. Later, when we encounter something similar, it might trigger a sense of recognition without a clear memory. This idea connects déjà vu to the larger mystery of how memories are created and maintained. It suggests that the experience is not only about recalling the past, but also about how the brain continues to build and organize memories. Every experience we have becomes part of our personal history, like threads woven into a larger fabric. Sometimes those threads become tangled, and déjà vu may be one result of that. In everyday life, déjà vu usually happens during calm and low-pressure moments. It rarely occurs during intense or stressful situations that require full attention. Instead, it appears during simple activities like casual conversations, routine tasks, or quiet walks. This pattern suggests that the brain's systems for checking errors are less active during these relaxed moments. When our attention is spread out, small mistakes in processing can pass unnoticed until they appear as déjà vu. The feeling itself is often pleasant, even slightly exciting, because it breaks the normal flow of experience.
For a brief moment, reality feels different and more mysterious, reminding us that our understanding of the world is something the brain creates and not something completely fixed. However, some people find déjà vu uncomfortable, especially if it happens often or feels intense. The sensation of losing control over what feels real can be confusing. For people who struggle with anxiety, déjà vu may increase worries about feeling disconnected from reality or losing mental stability. However, for most people, it is simply a harmless curiosity, a brief and unusual moment that fades away without leaving any real effect. Psychologists explain that experiencing déjà vu is not a sign of any hidden problem or disorder. It is a normal and natural quirk of the mind, similar to forgetting a word that feels like it is right on the tip of your tongue. Both experiences remind us that the human mind, despite all its amazing abilities, is not perfect. It makes small errors, and sometimes those errors feel intriguing instead of frustrating.
There are times when déjà vu can feel almost deep and meaningful, as if the universe is quietly sending you a signal. You might be sitting with a friend, and suddenly the conversation, the lighting, and the emotions of the moment all come together in a way that feels strangely familiar and almost destined. In that instant, what is really just coincidence can feel like something full of meaning. Some people understand these moments as signs that they are moving in the right direction in life, as if fate or destiny is giving them reassurance. Others see them as reminders of how connected our experiences are, showing how the past and present can echo each other in unexpected and surprising ways. Whether you choose to see it in a spiritual way or a scientific way, déjà vu has a unique ability to pull us out of our automatic routine. It makes us pause, notice what is happening, ask questions, and feel a sense of wonder. And perhaps that, more than any explanation, is its true gift. There is also a connection between déjà vu and dreams. Many people say that déjà vu feels similar to remembering a dream. It has that same unclear and misty quality, the feeling of knowing something without being able to explain it, and the frustration of not being able to fully hold on to it before it disappears. Some theories suggest that déjà vu may actually involve memories of dreams. It is possible that you once dreamed something similar to what you're experiencing now, but the memory of that dream is so weak and broken that it only appears as a vague feeling. Dreams often take pieces of real life and rearrange them in unusual ways. If something happening now closely matches a forgotten dream, your mind may recognize it unconsciously, and that recognition appears as déjà vu. This idea is difficult to prove, but it matches what many people feel. Lack of sleep and irregular sleep habits are also linked to more frequent experiences of déjà vu. When we do not sleep properly, the brain's memory system does not work as efficiently. The process of organizing memories becomes disrupted, and the boundary between being awake and dreaming can become unclear. In this state, the brain is more likely to confuse signals and mistake something new for something already experienced. Déjà vu during times of poor sleep may simply be the brain struggling to keep its information organized correctly. It reminds us how deeply sleep affects our thinking, not just by making us tired, but by changing how we perceive and remember things. Rest is not just about recovery, it is about maintenance, the brain carefully organizing and stabilizing everything we have gone through. The idea of precognitive dreams, where people feel they have seen an event before it happens, sometimes overlaps with déjà vu. In reality, most of these experiences can be explained by confirmation bias or memory distortion. We dream about many different situations, most of which we forget immediately. When real life happens to resemble one of those dreams, we remember it and feel as if it was a prediction.
Déjà vu may work in a similar way. The brain is constantly creating predictions and simulations. When reality matches one of these internal patterns, it feels strange and mysterious, but it is not magic or the ability to see the future. It is simply the brain recognizing patterns so well that it sometimes creates false signals. There are moments when prediction feels like memory, and this connects déjà vu with creativity. Creative people, especially writers, artists, and musicians, often report stronger experiences of déjà vu. This may be because their minds are more sensitive to patterns, connections, and subtle details in their surroundings. They notice when something feels familiar or unusual, and they tend to reflect on those feelings more deeply than others. Creativity also involves flexible thinking and the ability to form unusual connections. This mental openness can blur the line between memory and imagination, making déjà vu more likely.
For artists, this experience can become a source of inspiration, a reminder that reality is more complex and layered than it appears. It offers a brief glimpse into how consciousness works, like a curtain being lifted for just a moment. Writers have often used déjà vu as a storytelling tool to explore ideas like fate, memory, and identity. In stories, it can suggest a parallel universe, a repeating loop of time, or a character losing their sense of reality. The feeling works well in storytelling because it naturally creates tension. Something feels slightly wrong, and both the character and the audience can sense it. In films and television, moments of déjà vu are often used to build suspense or hint at deeper mysteries. Repeated scenes or familiar conversations create a sense of unease. Art takes this personal experience and turns it into something shared, allowing audiences to feel that strange sense of recognition even when they know it is fictional. Philosophers and scientists who study the mind see déjà vu as a window into how consciousness works. It shows that much of our experience is created by the brain rather than directly observed. The fact that we can feel familiarity with something we have never actually experienced suggests that familiarity itself is just a feeling, not always a reliable truth. This raises deeper questions about reality. If our basic sense of whether something is new or known can be wrong, then what else might our minds be shaping or misinterpreting? Déjà vu becomes like a small opening through which we can glimpse how the brain constructs our experience of being alive moment by moment. At its core, déjà vu is a paradox. It is the feeling of remembering something that never actually happened. The mind holds two conflicting ideas at the same time. This moment is both new and already known. That contradiction is what makes the experience so confusing and fascinating. As humans, we depend on memory to understand the world, to build our identity, and to make sense of time. When memory and reality do not match, it can feel unsettling. Déjà vu highlights the gap between what we feel and what we know, reminding us that personal experience and objective truth are not always the same. For a brief moment, we exist in that gap, suspended between certainty and doubt. The short and fleeting nature of déjà vu adds to its mystery. Just as you begin to understand it, the feeling disappears. You cannot hold on to it or study it closely. Trying to focus on it often makes it fade even faster, much like trying to remember a dream right after waking up. This disappearing quality is part of what makes déjà vu feel almost supernatural. If it lasted longer, it might lose some of its wonder. But because it vanishes so quickly, it remains elusive, like something just out of reach. This makes it difficult for scientists to study, but it also keeps the experience feeling rare and special. Some people wish they could experience déjà vu more often, while others find it uncomfortable and would rather avoid it. This difference reflects how people see the world. For some, mystery is exciting and refreshing. For others, it feels unsettling and reminds them of how little control we truly have over our perceptions. There is no correct way to react to déjà vu. It is simply a natural feature of consciousness that appears without warning. What matters is how we respond to it. Do we embrace the strange feeling and let it inspire curiosity? Or do we ignore it and return to what feels stable and familiar? Both reactions are valid and reflect different ways of being human. Déjà vu also affects how we experience time. It seems to blend the past and present into a single moment. In that instant, time no longer feels like a straight line moving forward. Instead, it feels like a loop where the normal order of events breaks down. Philosophers have long debated whether time is something real in the universe or something created by the human mind. Déjà vu supports the idea that our experience of time is shaped by the brain. It shows that time is not fixed, but flexible, influenced by how the mind interprets events. When memory does not work correctly, time itself seems to bend. The present moment feels like it is layered over a shadow of the past, both existing together. Some theories suggest that déjà vu may be connected to how the brain marks and organizes experiences in time. Every memory is marked with a sense of time, giving it a feeling of when it originally happened. If this system of tagging time does not work properly, a current experience can be mistakenly labeled as something older than it really is. The result of this confusion is déjà vu, the strange feeling that what is happening now has already happened before. This idea of time labeling fits well with what scientists understand about the hippocampus, the part of the brain that plays an important role in organizing memories and placing events in order. When the hippocampus is damaged or disrupted, people often find it difficult to tell the difference between recent memories and older ones. Déjà vu may be a mild and temporary version of that confusion, like a brief error in the brain's internal sense of time. The feeling that time slows down during intense experiences, such as accidents or emergencies, shares some similarities with déjà vu. Both involve changes in how we perceive time. They are moments when the normal flow of time seems to shift or behave differently. During stressful or intense situations, the brain may store memories in greater detail, creating the illusion that time has stretched out. Déjà vu works in a different way, but it also distorts time by making the present moment feel like an echo of something from before. These experiences remind us that time, as we experience it, is not a simple and fixed measurement. It is filtered through our consciousness and shaped by our attention, emotions, and memories. We live within time, but we also actively create the feeling of time, moment by moment, through our awareness. There's also an emotional side to déjà vu. It is often accompanied by a specific feeling, usually a mix of surprise, curiosity, and sometimes a slight sense of unease. This feeling is difficult to describe because it is not just about thinking. It is also deeply emotional and physical. Some people notice physical sensations during déjà vu, such as a light tingling, a subtle shiver, or a fluttering feeling in the chest. These reactions suggest that déjà vu does not only involve memory,
but also engages the emotional and bodily systems of the brain.
The limbic system, which is responsible for emotions, is closely connected to the hippocampus. When something goes slightly wrong in the memory process, emotional reactions can also be triggered, adding a layer of feeling to the mental confusion. This emotional aspect is one reason why déjà vu is so memorable. It stands out not only because of what happens, but because of how it feels. For some people, déjà vu brings a sense of nostalgia or even longing. It can feel like remembering something warm and distant, like a moment from childhood or a forgotten happiness. This feeling may happen because the brain is activating networks linked to older memories. Even if no clear memory appears, the sense of familiarity can trigger the same pathways that create nostalgia, blending past and present into a single emotional experience. This shows how closely emotion and memory are connected. What we feel about an experience is often deeply tied to how we remember it. Déjà vu can feel like almost remembering something, mixed with the gentle sadness of something that remains just out of reach. Sometimes, déjà vu can also create a feeling of uneasiness or even fear, especially if it is very strong or lasts longer than usual. This darker feeling may be related to the uncanny valley effect, where something feels almost familiar but not completely right. When reality seems slightly distorted, when something ordinary suddenly feels strange, it can become uncomfortable. In rare situations, people with certain neurological conditions experience frequent and disturbing episodes of déjà vu that interfere with their daily lives. For them, it is not an interesting curiosity, but a heavy burden, a constant feeling that everything is repeating again and again. These extreme cases show how important balance is in the brain. A small amount of strangeness can be fascinating, but too much can become overwhelming. Déjà vu also changes across different stages of life. Children and teenagers tend to experience it more often than adults, although the exact reasons are not fully known. One possible explanation is that younger brains are still developing, especially the frontal lobes, which are responsible for decision-making and detecting errors. Without fully developed systems to monitor these processes, the brain may be more likely to produce the small glitches that cause déjà vu. Another reason could be the constant novelty in young people's lives. They are always encountering new experiences, which may increase the chances of the brain mistakenly labeling something as familiar. It is also possible that younger individuals simply notice and talk about déjà vu more often because they find it interesting. As people grow older, reports of déjà vu usually decrease. Older adults experience it less frequently, possibly because their brains rely more on stable patterns rather than constantly seeking new experiences. The brain's flexibility, known as plasticity, decreases with age and memory systems become less adaptable. This reduction in flexibility may lower the chances of experiencing déjà vu. It is also possible that older individuals simply pay less attention to it or consider it unimportant. The decrease with age suggests that déjà vu is connected to the active and changing nature of a younger brain, a side effect of growth, learning, and constant mental adjustment. For some people, however, déjà vu continues throughout life and never fully disappears. These individuals may have brains that are more sensitive to the conditions that create déjà vu, or they may simply be more aware of their inner experiences. Having frequent déjà vu as an adult does not mean something is wrong. It is simply a natural variation in how different brains function. Like many human traits, the tendency to experience déjà vu exists on a spectrum. Some people rarely feel it, while others encounter it regularly. This variation is part of what makes human consciousness rich and diverse. No two people experience the world in exactly the same way. Describing déjà vu is very difficult because it is a deeply personal and internal experience. People often struggle to explain it clearly, and they usually rely on comparisons or vague descriptions.
They might say it felt like they had been there before or that everything seemed familiar, but these words only capture part of the experience. This difficulty reflects a larger challenge in understanding consciousness. Many parts of our inner experience are hard to put into words. Philosophers call these experiences qualia, meaning the personal and subjective qualities of perception, like the redness of red or the feeling of pain. Déjà vu belongs to this category. Language can point toward these experiences, but it cannot fully express them. Each person's experience of déjà vu is unique and exists privately within their own mind. Despite this, the term déjà vu has become widely used in everyday language. People often use it to describe any situation that feels repetitive or familiar, even if it is not the actual psychological phenomenon. Over time, the phrase has expanded in meaning and is now often used as a metaphor for repetition or cycles. It has also become a part of popular culture, appearing in movies, music, and internet content, often to suggest that something is repeating in a strange or unsettling way. This shows how strongly the idea connects with people. It is not just a brain quirk, but also a symbol for the repeating patterns we notice in life. Different languages describe this experience in their own ways, although many have adopted the original French term. In some languages, there are unique words that express a sense of familiarity mixed with strangeness, while others require longer explanations to describe the feeling. This variety shows how different cultures understand and express inner experiences. The fact that the term déjà vu has been borrowed by so many languages highlights how universal the experience is. It reflects a shared human recognition that this small and curious glitch in consciousness is meaningful enough to name and talk about, even if it remains mysterious. One common misunderstanding is that déjà vu is a kind of psychic power or a way of predicting the future. People sometimes think that when they feel déjà vu, it means they have somehow seen what is about to happen or have access to hidden supernatural knowledge. This idea makes sense at first because the experience feels so strange and powerful, but there is no scientific proof to support it. Déjà vu does not predict anything. It does not give a person the ability to see the future. It is simply a trick of the brain, not a window into what will happen next. The confusion comes from the strong feeling of knowing, which can feel similar to prediction. However, that feeling is not real knowledge. It is empty, a signal created by the brain without real information behind it. It happens because the brain incorrectly labels the present moment as something that has already happened, rather than actually accessing the future. Another common belief is that déjà vu comes from memories of past lives coming back to the surface. This idea can feel meaningful and fits well with certain spiritual beliefs, but it is not supported by scientific research. The way déjà vu appears does not match what we would expect if it were truly connected to past lives. It usually happens during ordinary, everyday situations, not during important or emotional moments that might seem connected to another lifetime. The explanation based on reincarnation also has difficulty explaining the clear evidence from neuroscience, which shows that déjà vu is connected to specific areas of the brain and can even be triggered by conditions like epilepsy or other medical issues. If past life memories were real, they would not show such clear biological patterns. Déjà vu may feel mysterious, but that mystery comes from how the brain works, not from the soul. Some people also think that experiencing frequent déjà vu means they have special abilities, such as clairvoyance or a stronger intuition. They may believe it shows they are more sensitive to hidden patterns or energies in the universe. While being thoughtful and aware of one's inner experiences can be valuable, déjà vu itself is not a sign of any special power.
It is a very common and well-studied experience that happens to many ordinary people for normal neurological reasons. Giving it a mystical meaning is a personal choice, but it is not supported by what we know about the brain. That said, the meaning people give to their experiences can still shape their lives. If déjà vu encourages someone to become more aware, reflective, or thoughtful, that can still be a positive outcome, no matter what causes the experience. In popular culture, especially in movies and television, déjà vu is often used as a storytelling tool. It is usually shown as a sign that something is wrong with reality. For example, in The Matrix, déjà vu is presented as a signal that the simulated world has been changed, like a glitch in the system. This idea connects with how unsettling déjà vu feels, as if reality itself is not as stable as we think. Other stories use déjà vu to explore ideas like time loops, parallel worlds, or broken memories. Even though these stories are fictional and not scientifically accurate, they capture something real about the emotional impact of déjà vu. It can make people question reality, even if only for a brief moment. It creates a sense that there might be something deeper happening beneath everyday experience. Science fiction often explores the idea of repeating time and reliving the same moments again and again, which is closely related to the feeling of déjà vu. Stories like Groundhog Day or Edge of Tomorrow show characters stuck in repeating cycles, forced to experience the same events repeatedly. These stories are imaginative, but they feel relatable because they reflect something familiar. Almost everyone has felt that strange sense of repetition at some point. Déjà vu can be seen as a very small version of a time loop, a short and unexplained moment where something feels like it is happening again. These stories take that brief feeling and imagine what it would be like if it continued endlessly. They turn a small mental glitch into a deep question about existence, and people connect with that idea because they have felt the beginning of it themselves. Music and art have also been inspired by the strange nature of déjà vu. Songs that use repeating patterns, echoes, or loops can create a feeling similar to circular time. Visual artists sometimes create images that feel familiar but are difficult to fully understand, as if they almost mean something but remain just out of reach. This experience works well in creative expression because it exists in a space between certainty and uncertainty, between memory and perception, between past and present. Déjà vu has become a shared cultural idea, something people use to describe those unusual moments when reality feels slightly unstable and we are reminded that the human mind is more complex than it seems. Recognition itself is a complicated process that involves many parts of the brain working together at the same time. When you recognize a familiar face, your brain does much more than simply match it to a stored image. It activates systems related to vision, emotions, memories of past experiences, and general knowledge. All of this happens extremely quickly, creating a smooth and natural feeling of recognition. Déjà vu may happen when this system produces the feeling of familiarity without providing the actual memory that should go with it. In other words, the feeling of "I know this" appears, but there is no real memory to support it. This creates a strange and uncomfortable state, where something feels familiar but cannot be explained. A part of the brain called the rhinal cortex, located near the hippocampus, plays an important role in detecting familiarity. Research has shown that damage to this area can reduce the feeling of familiarity while leaving other types of memory mostly unaffected. People with such damage might recognize places or faces, but not feel that they truly know them. On the other hand, unusual activity in this area could create a false sense of familiarity, which may lead to déjà vu. This suggests that the feeling of familiarity is not just a side effect of memory, but a separate signal that the brain creates.
Déjà vu shows what happens when this signal is activated at the wrong time, separated from actual memory. The idea of signal detection helps explain why déjà vu occurs. The brain is constantly deciding whether what we experience is new or familiar. It is always trying to separate meaningful signals from background noise. Sometimes it makes mistakes. It can create a false positive, where something new is incorrectly judged as familiar, or a false negative, where something familiar is not recognized. Déjà vu is an example of a false positive.
The brain incorrectly signals that something is familiar when it is not. This system is designed to be cautious. It is better for survival to sometimes feel false familiarity than to completely miss something important. This balance allows the brain to recognize patterns quickly, even if it occasionally creates small errors. Déjà vu is one of those small errors, the result of a system that is usually very efficient but not perfect. People who practice meditation sometimes notice changes in how they experience déjà vu. Some feel it happens more often because they become more aware of subtle mental experiences. Others feel it happens less because meditation helps them stay focused on the present moment. Meditation teaches people to observe their thoughts and feelings without reacting to them.
This can create a sense of distance from unusual experiences like déjà vu. Instead of becoming confused or disturbed, a person may simply notice the feeling and let it pass. The experience itself does not disappear, but the emotional reaction to it becomes softer and more controlled. Certain substances that affect the brain, such as psychedelics, have also been linked to experiences similar to déjà vu. These experiences are often stronger and last longer than normal déjà vu. Substances that change serotonin activity, like LSD or psilocybin, can deeply affect memory, perception, and the sense of time. People who use them sometimes report feeling stuck in repeating moments or experiencing strong familiarity with things that are actually new.
While these experiences are not exactly the same as natural déjà vu, they may involve similar processes, especially changes in how the brain handles time, memory, and recognition. Studying these altered states can help scientists understand normal consciousness by showing what happens when the brain's usual patterns are changed. The moments between waking and sleeping can also create experiences similar to déjà vu. These are the times when the brain is shifting between different states of awareness. During these transitions, the normal boundaries between memory, perception, and imagination can become less clear, leading to unusual sensations that feel familiar yet difficult to explain. Memory systems work in different ways and perception becomes flexible. You might have thoughts that feel at the same time like memories and like something newly created, or you may see mental images that seem both familiar and also impossible. These mental states remind us that consciousness does not exist as only two simple states like awake or asleep, but instead works as a continuous range of different modes that shift gradually. Déjà vu may be more likely during transition moments when the brain is changing between different processing states and the normal organizing rules are temporarily loosened. Stress and emotional load also play a role. Stress and tiredness are known to increase how often déjà vu happens. When you are exhausted, mentally overloaded, or emotionally pressured, the brain's error detection systems become less accurate. Small mismatches that would normally be detected and corrected pass through unnoticed, and this can appear as déjà vu. This is similar to how stress can increase other thinking mistakes, such as forgetting names, losing attention, or misremembering small details.
The brain has limited mental energy, and when those resources are heavily used, performance becomes weaker. Déjà vu becomes more common because the systems that monitor and keep perception stable are under strain. This reminds us that mental clarity depends on basic needs like proper rest, good nutrition, and emotional balance. Strong emotions can also contribute to déjà vu, especially emotions that are strongly linked with memory and meaning. When you are in a high emotional state, the brain's memory recording systems become more active and create stronger and more detailed memories. But this increased activity can also raise the chance of small processing errors. An emotionally intense moment may activate memory networks in unusual ways, creating short connections that feel like recognition. Like recognition. Some people experience déjà vu during moments of happiness, surprise, or fear, which are times when the brain is working strongly to process what is happening. Emotional intensity increases the strength of the experience, making the feeling of déjà vu more noticeable and harder to ignore. Anxiety disorders are sometimes connected with more frequent déjà vu experiences. Although the relationship is complex, it is not fully clear whether anxiety causes déjà vu or whether people who are already anxious simply notice and focus on it more often. What is certain is that both can influence each other. Déjà vu can create anxiety by making reality feel unstable, and anxiety can make a person more aware of internal sensations, increasing the chance that subtle feelings of familiarity are noticed. For people who experience this cycle, understanding the brain basis of déjà vu can be comforting. Knowing that it is a normal and harmless feature of thinking rather than something dangerous can reduce fear and help break the cycle. Déjà vu and identity are closely connected. Our sense of self is strongly linked to memory. In many ways, we are the collection of everything we remember, the experiences that have shaped who we are. Déjà vu challenges this idea by creating false memories, or at least the feeling of memory, without actual content. If we can feel that we have experienced something even when we have not, then what does that say about how reliable our sense of self really is, which is built from our past experiences? These questions touch deep ideas in both philosophy and psychology. If memory can make mistakes and create false recognition, then the base of identity may be less stable than we like to believe. Déjà vu becomes a small kind of existential confusion, a moment where the self feels slightly uncertain. However, most people do not experience déjà vu as something that harms their identity. It feels strange, but it does not usually create deep fear about existence. This shows how strong the sense of self really is. A single mistake in perception does not destroy the whole structure. We can feel confusion or uncertainty without losing our understanding of who we are. The self is not just one memory or one experience, but a pattern, a story built from many different threads. One loose thread does not break the entire structure. Déjà vu also reminds us that we are flexible and able to include strange or even conflicting experiences into our ongoing sense of identity without falling apart. There is something almost playful about déjà vu, like the mind is testing itself. It feels as if consciousness is exploring its own limits and trying out what it can create or believe. This playful quality may be one reason why the experience is more interesting than frightening. It is a safe form of strangeness, a brief moment away from normal perception that does not cause real harm. In that sense, déjà vu can feel like a kind of gift, a reminder that the mind can do more than we usually notice. It can create mystery, surprise, and wonder from inside itself. We do not always need external magic or supernatural ideas to experience something extraordinary. Our own brains are already capable of producing strange and fascinating experiences.
The social side of déjà vu is also interesting. Sharing a déjà vu experience with others can create a feeling of connection. When you say that something feels familiar and someone else agrees, there is a sense of shared understanding. Of course, it is likely just coincidence, with each person experiencing their own separate brain glitch, but the shared reaction still creates bonding. It becomes a moment of mutual openness where people admit that perception is not always as simple as it seems. These shared moments, whether about déjà vu or other subtle mental experiences, remind us that we are all moving through the same mysterious nature of consciousness, each of us occasionally reaching its unclear edges. On the other hand, trying to explain déjà vu to someone who has never felt it can be very difficult. The experience is so personal and internal that language often cannot fully describe it. You might say it feels like you have been somewhere before, and the other person may understand the words, but not the actual feeling behind them. This gap in understanding is common in many parts of consciousness. We often assume that everyone experiences the world in the same way, but small differences in perception and thinking mean that some experiences remain private and hard to share. Déjà vu shows this limitation clearly because even something widely experienced can still feel isolating when it cannot be fully expressed. In social situations, talking about déjà vu may sometimes be met with jokes or skepticism. People may jokingly call it psychic ability or say it is imagination. This reaction shows discomfort with experiences that do not fit neatly into simple logical explanations. Déjà vu exists in an unusual space. It is real in the sense that people genuinely feel it, but it is not real in the sense that nothing has actually repeated. Society often prefers clear categories like true or false, real or imaginary, but déjà vu does not fit cleanly into either. It is a real experience that is also a mental mistake. Learning to accept this kind of contradiction without forcing it into one category is part of understanding how complex consciousness really is. Even after many years of scientific study, déjà vu is still not fully explained. Researchers have developed different theories supported by evidence, but no single explanation covers all cases. One reason is that déjà vu may not be only one single phenomenon, but several different types of brain glitches that feel similar. The brain is extremely complex, and memory involves many systems working together. Because of this, it is difficult to find exactly where the process goes slightly wrong during déjà vu experiences. Future research using better brain imaging tools and larger studies may bring clearer answers, but for now, déjà vu still keeps part of its mystery. Some experiences are not fully explained, and there is value in that. There is a wide gap between personal experience and scientific explanation when it comes to déjà vu. We can describe brain activity, involved regions, and timing theories, but these explanations still do not fully capture what the experience actually feels like. The feeling itself, the strange familiarity, and the emotional impact remains something deeply personal and subjective, beyond complete description. This gap is a reminder that not everything can be reduced to a simple mechanism. Understanding how something works does not always fully explain what it means or how it feels inside. Both perspectives matter equally, the scientific explanation and the lived personal experience, and neither one feels complete without the other. There is a certain beauty in the fact that some mysteries still remain present. In a time where information is everywhere and answers are usually just a search away, déjà vu still remains difficult to fully explain or pin down. You can read about it, talk about it, and analyze it from many angles, but you cannot fully break it apart or completely capture it. It only exists in the moment it is experienced, fleeting, temporary, and not something that can be fully reduced into simple parts. This quality of being hard to define keeps it interesting and prevents it from becoming ordinary or boring.
If we ever fully understood déjà vu, if we could predict it exactly and control when it happens, it raises the question of whether it would lose its sense of magic. Perhaps part of what makes the experience meaningful is exactly the fact that it cannot be fully pinned down, that it remains one of the small private wonders of human consciousness. Déjà vu in different contexts also matters a lot. The environment and situation in which déjà vu happens can change how strong or strange it feels. Experiencing it in a familiar place like your own home might feel less shocking compared to feeling it in a completely new city where everything is unfamiliar. The contrast between a truly new environment and a sudden false feeling of familiarity makes the experience feel even more strange and noticeable. Similarly, déjà vu during very ordinary activities like washing dishes or waiting for a bus has a different emotional tone compared to experiencing it during an important or emotional event. The situation itself does not change the basic mechanism behind it, but it strongly influences how we interpret it. A mental glitch during an important life moment might feel like a sign or warning, while the same experience during a normal daily routine might simply feel like something odd and forgettable. Traveling seems to increase reports of déjà vu, possibly because new environments give the brain more chances for pattern recognition mistakes. When you are in an unfamiliar place, your brain is working harder than usual to process, understand, and store new information. This higher mental load may make small recognition errors more likely to happen. In addition, new places often share similarities in structure, design, or atmosphere with places you have seen before in your life. A street in one country might resemble a street in another country, which can trigger a false sense of familiarity, even though your conscious mind knows it should not feel familiar. Traveling also takes us out of routine life and makes us more alert and observant, so we tend to notice unusual mental experiences more clearly instead of ignoring them as we might in everyday routine life. On the other hand, déjà vu in very familiar environments can sometimes feel even more disturbing. Imagine sitting in your childhood room and suddenly feeling as if you have never been there before, or walking through your daily route and sensing that every step feels like a repetition of something ancient and forgotten. These kinds of experiences in familiar places can blur the boundary between the self and the environment. If even the places we know best can suddenly feel strange or unfamiliar, it raises deeper questions about how stable our perception of reality really is. It suggests that familiarity is not an objective feature of the world itself, but rather something created by the mind, something the brain constructs and can also temporarily distort or reverse. From an evolutionary perspective, déjà vu might be an unintended side effect of powerful memory and recognition systems that evolved for survival. Human brains developed strong pattern recognition abilities to detect danger, find food, and navigate complex social environments. These systems needed to act quickly and sometimes had to prioritize speed over perfect accuracy. It is better for survival to mistakenly think a shadow is a threat than to ignore a real danger. In this sense, déjà vu could be a harmless error, a false recognition signal, and a system that is generally highly useful and life-saving. The fact that it is common, short, and temporary suggests that it does not harm survival or functioning enough to be removed by evolution. Pattern recognition is one of the most powerful tools of the human brain, and like any complex system, it can sometimes produce errors. Déjà vu may be the small cost of having such a flexible and advanced system that constantly connects patterns and experiences. If the brain were less flexible and less likely to form associations, we might experience fewer strange moments like déjà vu, but we would also lose creativity, adaptability, and the ability to learn from experience. That trade-off seems necessary. A mind that occasionally creates false familiarity is still far more useful than a mind that is rigid, limited, and unable to adapt. From this view, déjà vu is not a flaw in the system, but rather a side effect of a system that works extremely well, but sometimes goes slightly beyond its limits. Social memory and group behavior may also play a role in this. Humans are deeply social beings, and our memory systems are strongly connected to social life, helping us recognize people, remember interactions, and understand relationships within groups. If déjà vu is linked to recognition systems in the brain, then it may also be related to the same mechanisms that help us identify faces, recall shared experiences, and maintain social bonds. A small glitch in this system is a minor cost compared to the huge benefits it provides for cooperation, communication, and social survival. In this way, déjà vu can be seen as a small byproduct of the same abilities that make human culture, communities, and civilization possible. For all the research and scientific theories, there is still a lot that remains unknown about déjà vu. Why does it feel so specific and intense? Why do almost all humans recognize it even though it is completely subjective? What determines the exact moment when it happens? These questions are still open and continue to invite deeper exploration. The unknown parts of déjà vu are a big reason why it remains so fascinating. It sits at the intersection of neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and personal lived experience. It connects scientific study with deeply personal awareness. Each answer that science discovers seems to create even more questions underneath it, revealing deeper layers that still need to be explored. The fact that mystery still exists in science is not a weakness, but actually a strength. Science moves forward by asking questions, testing ideas, and refining understanding over time. It does not reach a final or complete answer. There is always more to learn, new tools to develop, and new perspectives that change how we see old problems. Déjà vu is a perfect example of this. Even though we understand it far better today than we did in the past, it still feels mysterious and not fully solved. Each generation adds more knowledge, but the experience itself remains the same for each person when it happens. Perhaps part of what makes déjà vu so powerful is that it cannot be fully explained or controlled. It stays at the edge of understanding, reminding us that consciousness itself is still not completely understood. We can study the brain, measure electrical activity, and build models of thinking, but the actual felt experience of being aware, the inner quality of experience, still remains difficult to fully capture. Déjà vu becomes a small window into that larger mystery, showing how the mind can create experiences that feel real, even when they are clearly not accurate reflections of reality. It reveals that perception is not a direct recording of the world, but more of an interpretation created by the brain. For some people, déjà vu feels like nothing more than a strange brain glitch that should be ignored. For others, it feels meaningful, like a sign that connects them to something larger or deeper in life. Neither interpretation can be proven completely right or wrong. Meaning is something humans create through interpretation, not something that exists directly inside events themselves. If déjà vu helps someone become more mindful, more present, or more thoughtful about life, then it serves a purpose regardless of its neurological cause. The brain may produce the experience automatically, but the meaning we assign to it is something we actively shape. There is a kind of freedom in this idea. Déjà vu does not have to carry a fixed meaning. It can simply be a strange moment that appears and disappears. But it can also become a reminder to slow down and notice the present moment more carefully. In a world that is often busy and fast-moving, any experience that interrupts routine thinking and creates a sense of wonder becomes valuable. Déjà vu does exactly that. It breaks normal flow, introduces something strange into the familiar, and briefly makes us question what we think we know. In the end, déjà vu acts like a mirror, reflecting how we understand memory, time, and reality itself. It reveals how much we rely on assumptions about our own perceptions and how confident we are in our memories. It quietly challenges that confidence and shows that perception is not always as reliable as we assume. This creates a moment of humility and curiosity, a reminder that we do not fully control or fully understand our own minds. Instead of resisting that uncertainty, there is an invitation to accept it, to stay curious, and to appreciate the mystery of being conscious and alive in this strange and complex experience of reality. The poetry of déjà vu. There's something poetic about déjà vu, a quality that goes beyond scientific explanation. It feels like a metaphor becoming real, time folding back on itself, memory and perception moving together like they are dancing. Poets and writers have long been drawn to this experience because it shows something important about being human. The feeling that life is both straight and circular, that we are always moving forward while somehow returning to the same themes, the same moments again and again. Déjà vu is life repeating itself in a poetic way.
A brief echo that suggests pattern and meaning even when none may truly exist. The short-lived nature of déjà vu reflects the short-lived nature of all experience. Moments come and go, and we cannot hold on to them no matter how much we try. Déjà vu makes this impermanence stronger, giving us a moment that feels like memory even while it is already disappearing. It teaches us something about letting go, about how impossible it is to truly capture the present. We want to stop the moment, understand it fully, but it is already gone before we can, leaving only a feeling behind. In this sense, déjà vu becomes a small lesson in mindfulness, in simply being present with what is happening without trying to hold it or fully explain it. If we think of life as a story, déjà vu works like a storytelling tool, a moment of dramatic irony or hidden foreshadowing that never fully resolves. It points toward meaning without clearly revealing it, showing connections without explaining them. This uncertainty is both frustrating and beautiful. It keeps us curious, thinking, searching. Déjà vu reminds us that life is not a problem to solve, but an experience to live, full of patterns and echoes that may or may not have meaning, but still form part of what it means to be human. Déjà vu and the future. As neuroscience grows, we may one day be able to predict or even create déjà vu on purpose. Scientists might develop ways to study the brain so closely that they can tell when someone is about to experience it, or technology that can trigger it on demand. These ideas raise questions. If déjà vu can be controlled, does it lose its importance? If we understand it fully, does it lose its mystery? Maybe. Or maybe understanding it makes it even more interesting, showing how complex and surprising the brain really is. There is also the possibility that future technology could remove déjà vu completely, fixing the small errors that create it. If the brain worked with perfect accuracy, would we want that? A life without déjà vu might be more stable and efficient, but also less surprising and less interesting. The small glitches of consciousness are part of what makes us human, part of what makes life unpredictable. A perfectly working mind might be less creative, less flexible, less able to feel wonder. Sometimes imperfection matters. Sometimes the glitch is the most interesting part. Looking ahead, déjà vu will likely continue to be studied and questioned. Each generation discovers it again, feels the same strange sensation, and asks the same questions. Why did this happen? What does it mean? Have I experienced this before? These questions connect people across time, linking everyone who has ever paused and wondered at what their mind is doing. Déjà vu is timeless in that way, a constant part of human experience. As long as we have memory, perception, and awareness, we will have moments when they do not align perfectly, creating that brief, strange feeling of having lived this moment before. Embracing the mystery. Not everything needs an answer. Not every experience needs to be explained or fully understood. Déjà vu teaches us this. It appears without warning, gives no explanation, and leaves without closure. And that is okay. We can sit with that uncertainty, accept its strangeness, and simply let it be a brief moment of wonder in an ordinary day. Learning to be comfortable with not knowing is important, especially in a world that often demands certainty and control. Déjà vu becomes a small practice for that skill. There is a kind of peace in accepting mystery. When you stop trying to explain everything unusual and instead simply experience it, life feels richer.
Déjà vu invites this attitude. It presents something strange that does not fully fit and tells us we do not need to solve it. We can just notice it, feel it, and move on. This does not mean giving up curiosity or thinking critically. It means balancing curiosity with openness, allowing space for the unknown without being overwhelmed by it. In the end, déjà vu is a gift. It shows us that consciousness is not a smooth machine, but a living, changing process that is imperfect and dynamic. It reveals that the mind can surprise itself, that perception is more flexible than we usually think, and that time and memory are not as fixed as they seem. These reminders are valuable. They keep us humble, curious, and aware. They make ordinary moments feel extraordinary, even if only briefly. And in that brief moment, we glimpse something strange and beautiful at the heart of being alive, a quiet sense of wonder. As you lie here, letting these thoughts move through your mind, imagine your own experiences of déjà vu. Remember that sudden feeling of familiarity, that moment when time seems to repeat itself. Feel how it arrived without warning and disappeared just as quickly, leaving only a faint trace like a dream after waking. There is no need to analyze it now. Just let it rest in awareness as one small mystery among many. Picture yourself in a quiet moment, maybe walking through a doorway or sitting in a familiar chair. The light feels a certain way. A sound comes from another room, and suddenly everything feels like an echo, like something repeated that never truly happened. In that instant, you are between past and present, memory and perception, certainty and confusion. It is strange and fascinating at the same time, a small break in the normal flow of reality. Now let that image slowly fade. Let it dissolve like morning mist. Let go of any need to understand it. Déjà vu comes and goes, and so does everything else. All experiences rise and pass through awareness. You do not need to hold on. You do not need to explain it. You can simply remain here, in this present moment, which is the only moment that truly exists, drifting gently toward rest. Your breathing becomes slower now, deeper and more steady. Each breath brings calm. Each exhale releases what is no longer needed. Thoughts, questions, the need to be anywhere else. The mystery of déjà vu is not something to solve right now. It exists quietly in the background of awareness, and that is enough. You have explored it, thought about it, and now you can let it go, like placing down a book after reading. Imagine yourself sinking deeper into comfort, into softness, into sleep. Your body becomes heavy and relaxed, fully supported. Your mind becomes quiet, thoughts slowing down like leaves settling after the wind. The world around you fades. Sounds become distant. Light becomes softer. Everything slowly disappears into the peaceful space where sleep begins.
You are safe here. There is nothing to do and nowhere to go. The strange patterns of the mind will still exist tomorrow, but for now, you can rest. You are done wondering. You are done exploring. You have earned this rest, this quiet descent into sleep, where thoughts dissolve and dreams begin. Let yourself drift. Let sleep carry you away from waking into the deep, quiet space of rest. As you drift, a final thought may appear. Maybe déjà vu is a reminder that all moments are connected, that past and present are not fully separate, and that consciousness moves in patterns we only partly understand.
Or maybe it is just a small error in the brain. Or maybe it is both. And maybe that is exactly what makes it feel so true. Maybe the truth is always both, always more complex and simple than we think, always holding space for mystery and explanation, poetry and science, wonder and understanding, the final letting go. And now, as your eyes grow heavier, as the last threads of waking thought begin to come apart, you can release everything. Release the need to know. Release the questions. Release even the sense of yourself as someone who wonders, who questions, who seeks. Just for now, just for these hours of sleep, you can be no one, nothing, nowhere. You can dissolve into the darkness, becoming part of the vast, quiet mystery that holds all things. Déjà vu, memory, consciousness, time, all of it fades into the background. What remains is only breath, only the gentle rise and fall of your chest, only the soft hum of existence continuing without effort, without thought. You're not trying anymore. You're not doing anything at all. You're simply being. And even that will soon fade as sleep takes you fully, completely into its embrace. Let go. Let go. Let go. Each thought that arises, watch it pass like a cloud across an empty sky. Each sensation, each sound, each flicker of awareness, let it come and let it go. Not holding, not pushing away, just allowing. And in that allowing, you'll find yourself slipping deeper, falling gently through layers of consciousness, through the twilight zone between waking and sleeping, down into the depths where no thoughts reach, where no questions wait, where there is only rest. The last words before sleep. If you're still here, still listening, still aware, that's okay. Sleep will come when it's ready. You don't need to chase it or force it. Just keep breathing. Just keep relaxing. Just keep letting go bit by bit, layer by layer. And if a thought about déjà vu returns, if you find yourself wondering about that strange sensation one more time, smile gently and set it aside. It will be there tomorrow if you want to explore it. Tonight, it's just another thought drifting by, no more important than any other. The mystery of the mind is vast, but you don't need to hold all of it. You can let the universe keep its secrets. You can let consciousness remain mysterious. You can let déjà vu be unexplained, fascinating, and strange. And you can let yourself rest, knowing that whatever wonders exist, they'll still be there when you wake. For now, this moment, this breath, this gentle descent into sleep, this is enough. This is everything. And so, dear listener, As you sink deeper into the soft darkness, as your awareness fades and dreams begin to stir at the edges, know that you're exactly where you need to be. The journey through déjà vu is complete. The exploration is done. What remains is only this: the quiet, the stillness, the peace of a mind finally at rest. Close your eyes, release your hold on the waking world, and drift gently, softly, completely into the deep, renewing, timeless ocean of sleep. Good night. Sleep well. Let go. If you happen to still be awake, you can go ahead and watch the next video when you're ready. But if your eyes are growing heavy, let the quiet mystery of consciousness hold you and carry you softly into rest. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and drift into sleep, into stillness, into the vast and timeless silence where even déjà vu cannot follow. Good night.